Hello, friends. Today, I want to talk about the number one belief that narcissists love to put inside of you. They love to have this belief become very well ingrained in your subconscious. I really want to know what you guys think about this. Okay. So, I'm going to tell you a little story about when I was on my road to recovery, on my own journey to heal. And when I went to get help, I said something to the person that I was seeking help from. I was like, look, I'm here because I'm screwed up. There's something wrong with me. I need help. I was convinced 100% that there was a problem, that there was something wrong, but I was also convinced that there was something wrong with me. So in this video, I want to talk about how that is one of the narcissist's favorite things to convince people of. I'm going to talk about why that's so damaging to you, and most importantly, what you can do about it. And that's where narcissistic abuse meets complex PTSD recovery. So if you want to know what to do about it, make sure you watch to the end, because that's where I'm going to give you guys some tips and suggestions that help. Okay, so let's get into how narcissists put into you this belief there's something wrong with you. So first of all, I just want to say that 8 out of 10, and this is like my own statistic, I'm not saying this is law, okay, this is my personal opinion, but probably 8 out of 10 people that are in a long-term relationship with a narcissist in their adult life had some kind of childhood trauma, whether one of their parents was a narcissist themselves. Maybe one of their parents was very codependent. Maybe one of their parents was emotionally unavailable. For whatever reason, there was some kind of trauma, okay? And it doesn't always have to be intentional. Every now and then in the School of Transformation, we'll get somebody that says, but I had a good childhood. Like, I know, I'm fully convinced my parents loved me. Why then? Are you eating my plant? Why then do I have, the same challenges that somebody that has a narcissistic parent has? And the reason is because a child's perception can be affected even accidentally. So for example, let's say you have parents that love you, but maybe they have to work a lot because life is expensive. And you had emotional needs that were not getting met, not because your parent didn't love you, but because they had to put a roof over your head. And out of love, they were trying to provide you with everything that they possibly could, the best way that they could. Okay. Regardless of intentions, a child's perception is going to cause certain beliefs. So if that child sees that mom and dad is working so much and they're never there, or not there as much as the child needs, that child can form a belief, I'm not enough, or it's my fault. Mom and dad don't want to be with me. They don't want to be around me. I'm not important. There are so many beliefs that can take place, and it's not about whether they were right or not. They just happened. That was your child perception. Okay. So anyway, that's accidental when it happens, but a narcissistic parent can cause that belief in childhood by constantly shaming the child, right? By abandoning the child emotionally whenever the child has an emotional need. If the narcissistic parent makes that child feel bad for their emotional needs, then the child starts thinking, everything about me makes mom or dad angry, or they reject me. Therefore, something's wrong with me. I'm defective somehow. And if you have that belief in childhood, it's very, very easy to fall into a relationship with somebody that continues to make you feel that way. It's just how it is. Repetition compulsion. In a way, our brain is actually using the present to try to help us. In other words, if you have this belief that there's something wrong with me because of the way you were treated in childhood. And now somebody in your present day life, when you're an adult, comes along that reminds you of the parent. We tend to think repetition compulsion is like the enemy or, is bad. But the truth is that your brain is actually looking at it as an opportunity to have a different outcome. Okay. But obviously we don't know that at the time. We haven't learned that. And so it just causes us to fall back into a pattern. But my point being is that you can be very susceptible to falling into a relationship with somebody that continues to confirm the belief that you have. This is where it gets a little bit strange, and I'm not going to lie. There was a time when I had a hard time really understanding this, but whatever we believe about ourselves, we're constantly projecting that out. And what our brain does is it's a reality creating machine. So any circumstance that would go outside of our belief, our brain isn't going to pay attention to. Our RAS, our reticular activating system, is not going to pay attention to it because it's programmed to think there's something wrong with me. So let's say I meet a great guy and I'm still not healed and I still have this belief. I may not even pay attention to this person, or I may feel there's no chemistry, but along comes somebody that is similar to the dynamics in childhood, and there's tons of chemistry going on. Your RAS is noticing a similarity to your belief. There's something wrong with me. This is confirmation. This person, the way they treat you, is confirmation to what you believe about yourself, and it gives you all kinds of chemical cocktails that make you feel like you have chemistry with this person. Okay, so I bring that out because it really helps us to understand how dangerous it is to leave these beliefs unchecked in our subconscious mind. Okay, it's not enough. It's not enough to understand the narcissist. It's not enough to understand why the suffering or how the suffering took place in the relationship. Just having a field day over there. On top of that, you have to uproot the beliefs that were put into you by that person. Otherwise, you're going to still feel like you're suffering the consequences of the relationship, or you're going to continue to find people in your life that continue to confirm that belief, there's something wrong with me. And the way narcissists can really instill this in you can be so covert. Okay. Sometimes you'll get a narcissistic parent that acts as if everything they tell you, they're telling you because they care. They're pointing out all these things that are wrong with you because they care, right? The problem is that every time they're caring, it's always kind of shame dumping and labeled as if they care. Imagine physically having a bottle that says toxic, and I remove the label and I put a really pretty label on it and I give it to you. It's just because the label is pretty and I'm calling it something else doesn't mean that it's going to be good for you. It's still toxic. It's the same thing with narcissists that are constantly chipping away at your self-esteem, constantly making you feel shame and guilt. They can say it's for your own good. They can label it what they want, but those behaviors are designed to inflict shame. And part of shame is feeling like I'm bad, or I'm defective. Or, as I was saying in the beginning, there's something wrong with me. That's all interlinked with shame. And the reason that belief gets really ingrained in you because of the covert way that narcissists use gaslighting. They use gaslighting to erode your perceptions. Okay, so for example, I did a video recently on enmeshment, and I talked about different examples on how a parent can be enmeshing with you. And one of the tools they use is gaslighting. So if I say, and this is the example that I used in that video, if you haven't seen it, I'll leave the link here. But in that video, really simple covert example is, let's say the parent is hot and the child is comfortable. The temperature is comfortable for the child. And the parent's like, are you hot? Child's like, no. Are you hot? No. Are you hot? No. And the parent doesn't stop asking the question until the child changes their answer. What that does in childhood is that teaches the child to second guess themselves. They think they even second guess their perception. They start thinking, well, I must be evaluating everything wrong. So over time, what gaslighting does is it causes you to no longer check in with yourself. Instead of asking yourself, how do I feel? How do I think the temperature is? Your brain starts automatically looking at the toxic person as the source to explain your reality, your perceptions, your reality, your thoughts, everything. It's almost like there's no connection to self anymore. And what that does is now you have this belief, there's something wrong with me. And you've been gaslit to be trained to look towards the toxic person to help you understand your reality. And this causes victims of narcissistic abuse because they don't know how to see it for themselves anymore. They've been gaslit for so long that their connection to self is non-existent. So to try to feel like there's nothing wrong with you, you wind up trying harder and harder and harder to please this person who you have given, without realizing it, you have given the authority to dictate your perception, your thoughts, your feelings, and your reality. So when you are battling those limiting beliefs that are being put into you by the narcissist, combined with the gaslighting where they're trying to help you to see that you need them to work through what you're feeling, right? They're going to dictate to you what's really going on inside of you. It's really confusing. It is really confusing. It's almost like the narcissist is making you sick and providing the cure all at the same time. Now, talk about cognitive dissonance, right? That just leaves you stuck, your brain stuck in between all of these confusing thoughts. So that's what happens. So that's how that belief gets deep rooted inside of you. Now, once you understand that, that logic alone is not enough to overturn your beliefs. This is why so many people get confused as to why they're not healing, because they have all this knowledge. They know everything about the narcissist. They understand the concepts. They can even point out examples, specific examples. And they wonder, well, I have all this knowledge. Why do I still feel, in this case, why do I still feel like there's something wrong with me? I understand it's them. I understand that they put that in me. And this is where we have to understand complex PTSD. When those beliefs became deep rooted inside of you, they became a part of your subconscious programs. On top of that, especially if you were in the relationship for a long time, your brain created neural pathways down that belief, down the road of that belief. Let's imagine every belief in our brain, there's a road for it, right? Well, this one is a highway because it's been traveled so often. So it's deep rooted in your subconscious, the belief. It's carved into your brain, the neural pathways. You probably have a trauma response at the thought of not having this belief. Okay, now that might sound a little weird, but think about it. If while you were with the narcissist, anytime you behaved as if there was nothing wrong with you, anytime you really felt your best self, it was met. If you were dealing with a malignant narcissist, that was met with either emotional punishment or verbal assault. And so now your brain associates feeling normal with danger, Now you have a trauma response that is in your body that tries to prevent you from letting go of the belief there's something wrong with me. When we really start to understand the complex PTSD recovery side of it, we start understanding why years can go by. You can be out of all toxic relationships and still have the emotional beliefs, and you can still have the emotions, the beliefs, the thought patterns that you had while in the relationship. And that's what keeps a person feeling stuck, right? Because physically they're out of the relationship, but emotionally, psychologically, cognitively, they feel as if they're still suffering from it. So I just hope that explains a little bit better why that lingers, why that belief doesn't just dissipate just because you learn about the narcissist. The next step is to then do the inner work to recover. And I would love to say that it's a 1, 2, 3, do A, B, C, and D, and you're done. It does take time. I'm not going to paint it pretty. I'm not going to lie. It does take time. It does take effort. It takes consistency and a tremendous amount of self-compassion. But it's worth it, because the alternative is you were in a relationship with a person that caused you to feel emotionally stuck and damaged and hurt and broken. And maybe now they're gone. The alternative is that you stay in that emotional state, or you're willing to be brave enough to do the inner work. And I say that because it takes courage. It takes less courage to stare at the narcissist and look at what they did and say they did this, and they're this, and this. It takes more courage to look inside and see the wounds that are there, as opposed to the actions and the betrayals that the narcissist inflicted. But that's the way to heal. And if you're ready, and if you're willing, right now, the doors to the School of Transformation are open for a few more days. If you want to join us, we are a group of international thrivers that meet weekly on Zoom. We work through the side effects of narcissistic abuse, complex PTSD, and childhood trauma together. We meet Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays for cognitive meetings, as well as somatic modalities. So come check us out. And remember that you get the first 7 days for free.